Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to do today a canvas. I'm going to work on a raw canvas. This is important. It's a lot more scratchy. It's got more of a tooth on it than if it was primed with a spray paint already. And that can create a few problems for you, particularly if you're working with, I work with very thin Poscas to sketch and do sort of fine work with, and they will catch on the tooth basically, and it flicks the paint. Does it at a micro level, but it still flicks the paint about, which means you have to go over stuff again and all that. Anyway, I'm not too bothered about it. I'm not too bothered about it because I want to show a bit of raw canvas work. Hang on, just put my that's my my little working mess paper down there. That's what I do on this paper. Get a nice flow going, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to use a pink to sketch in, just because I've kind of got used to it, working with a pink. I should probably say why I work with a pink. Pink is a light colour, very easily coloured. If I work with a black, I have to do quite a lot of work to cover the black. So I don't really want to work with a black until you can, if you do a pink outline, then work over it with a black as a second outline, works a lot better. But I probably won't do a second outline anyway because I'm impatient and I want to go straight for a fill. So with that in mind, I sort of know what I'm going to do pretty much, got an idea. Not quite sure how all of it's going to work, but let's just see. Oh, I never told you the advantages. The advantages of working on raw canvas. Number one, you don't have to prime it. That's an obvious thing to say, right? Paint lies on a matte sort of basic primer like this much better than it does on a spray paint acrylic primer. Spray paint acrylic primer requires more coats to lay down because it can be quite waterproof if you're using acrylics on the top of it. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I can decide what my background colour is going to be later in the process, because I don't really know what colours I'm going to use now. I know that predominantly I'm going to use yellow, but I don't know what else. So it gives me time to kind of go, oh, actually, you know, something else would go nicely there. And then I can take a bigger pen from my Artix pens that I'll show you later, and then I can just fill the background as I like. These are the advantages to working on raw canvas. Decisions can be made later in the day. You know, the thing about when you get canvases in like this, you go, I want to do a canvas, better prime it. Well, you're going to prime it, and then you're going to wait probably for it to completely go dry and stop stinking a room out, 48 hours probably, 2 days before you can do that canvas. And then you might have changed your mind, want to go do something else, you know, or you might be too busy to do that. A lot of artists keep canvases primed in different colours and different stuff. I used to do it all the time. Keep a canvas primed with a little bit of spray on it elsewhere, just because you know you're going to want to do a canvas at some point, and it's good to have some in storage. Anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into the sketch. So first of all, I've got to work out my dimensions, and I'm going to do this roughly. I don't do grids or doodle grids or anything like that because I'm not very good at copying. I was talking to Nasher about this the other day, right? I'm not very good at copying from stuff. Some people are great at it and make a living at it even. I am not good at it. Know your limitations, right? So for me, much better if I just lay some stuff down. Much better. So that's what I do. Just lay some paint down and hoof it, basically. Find a way of getting it on the hoof. Finding the dimensions on the hoof. Works for me. Now, luckily, I've done this character before, so I've got a bit of experience with him. If indeed it is him. Oh, hang on. I've got them proportions wrong already. There, yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. That's good. That's fine. I think that's fine. See how rough and loose I like to sketch? I have to, by the way, I have to sketch rough and loose, because if I don't, everything gets to be too formal and tied down and tight, and I start to lose my fluidity, and I've got to keep a spirit of playfulness about it, because if I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't be creative, basically. Got to stay as creative as possible. I've got to play. Playfulness is the thing. And if it's not playful, then for me it starts to get very stuck and miserable. And then I don't want to do it anymore. I should be doing this much better, because I have done this character before. Is that the right size? So I'm judging scale completely by eye. Some artists would say I'm absolutely mad to do that, but it is how we always used to do it back in the day. But then again, that's not an argument for doing it, because a lot of things we did back in the day were not as effective as things we now know. Oh, that's all right, actually. That's okay. I'm looking at this going, yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Big hat, for sure. There we go. Run out of float. Okay, see, I could have done this on time-lapse, but I really want you to see it, see how it works for me. This is laying down on raw canvas, so you can probably hear it, right? Yeah, the noise it makes, the granulated surface. So you can see there's quite a lot of work to be done already. I want to put a piece somewhere in there. I don't mind that it's obscured. I've got to work out its actual dimensions, and it's going to be quite large. So U would be there, T would be there, like that. E would be, these right in there. Might have to use a bit of artistic license. Still not getting very much of that, are you? Oh God, barely any actually. Okay. I might have to live with that. Yeah, I think I'm feeling this. Pretty much. I mean, the space is not great, is the only thing. Really, you want, because that's coming off the top there, you want something coming off the bottom there. Otherwise, see with the negative spaces around there, it's not a great use of it, because that's all filled. That's a sort of ugly use of space, because this is just dead. If you can sort of do something with the dynamic in space, tuck things in the corner and stuff, you can make this space work for you. But that space is not working for me. It's just dead. So I'm going to have to think again now. What's the best way of doing this? Maybe. Could I get another character in there? Ooh, I don't know. Don't know if I could or not. To change his hat, actually. I reckon changing his hat might do something. Let's just have a quick go. It doesn't matter at this stage. You've got to remember, it doesn't really matter if it all comes on top, because this is all sketch stage. See, that's better because it opens up the space, so everything's back in the middle. That's a better hat choice. Let's go with that. I want to stick some glasses on him or something. How am I going to curve them round? I'll curve them round like that. That's reasonably effective, I think. Is this looking enough of a mess for you right now? Good job, I know where I'm going with it. That's good, okay. Right, what I want to do, so I'm not going to do another character in there. I'll stick with this guy. I will probably add to this along the way, but it'd be good to get some paint on this now. So I will go into time lapse for a bit. Okay, so I've mostly got my base fill in, as you can see. So those of you who are used to painting pieces on walls, same process, right? It's the same process. You're laying down lots of base colour. You know, first lines, base colour. You're not even thinking about doing details yet. Did you notice maybe it was too quick for you to see, I took out my Artex big, thick white pen for this, because this is what these pens come into their own with. Suddenly you can just cover large areas really, really quickly. I mean, look at that, it's killed them first lines already. Because that's not my total priority at the moment, killing the first lines. But because it normally takes more than one coat to do it. But if it can do it straight off the bat like that, it saves me a job, saves me having to go over it all later with another coat. Okay, so got my base fill. That's not enough, as you can see. Now, you may have noticed that depending on what colour your base fill goes over, mine's gone over pink. So you see it creates this sort of weird colour. Now, I don't really mind it that much, to be perfectly honest with you. I think this yellow's running low already. Luckily, Mr. Christopher Delaney bought me a whole box of these. Big ups, Chris. So I don't have to worry about running out mid-painting. There we go. So what I'm doing now, I'm just applying a second coat. And as you can see, even this yellow, I love this yellow. This is my favourite colour. But I'll be the first to admit its shortcomings, which is it doesn't cover very well. As in, its opacity is not brilliant. However, for a second coat, this is looking all right. This is looking okay. And yeah, I'm not bothered about it being perfect. I don't mind it being perfect, because don't forget, imperfection sometimes is what gives something its appeal. What is it they say? They say that thing about imperfection, like this, that basically your style... Hang on, what am I doing here? The form suddenly looks wrong to me. Oh, I know why. Yeah, because before he had a flat hat on, and now he's got this hat on, so I'm going to have to build this up a bit. There's his head. Your style, basically, so you can see the way the red leaks in there. Don't worry about it. Don't be worrying about that, because what we'll do, wait for that to dry and go over it again, and it will kill it. So you don't need to be concerned about that. I do want to wipe it off here, so I've got a clear yellow again. There we go. Yeah, your style comprises the 1,000 little mistakes you make along the way. That's kind of how it goes. That's what your style is. I mean, I could do this for ages, but what I will do instead of going over and over, because as you can see, a lot of these paint pens, they lay down very well. I mean, you know, that red, that's a first coat. It don't need any more than that. That's it, it's done. I'm looking for something to go in these bits. I don't want it to be too dark. Now is your time to try mad ideas, because at this stage, don't matter, well, at any stage it don't matter really. Like I was saying the other day, if you're working with paint pens, you are working with the luxury of an opaque medium. Meaning, if you mess it up, you can go over it again. Unlike alcohol markers, where if you mess it up, you're stuck. You're totally stuck with it. There's nothing you can do. You can use whiteout. I mean, that's what all the comic artists used to do. They used to use whiteout. That purple works quite well, I think. I don't like whiteout. I don't like it for a couple of different reasons. It builds up a big sort of knobbly texture on your work if you're working on with. And by the way, alcohol markers do not work on whiteout. So you can only do it if you're using black ink, black ink on mostly board, Bristol board, that kind of stuff. I'll just stop the outline because I don't like the black. This is a sort of common problem with me. I don't like that black, and it's too strong. It's too strong a contrast, because if you see he's wearing this sort of glass thing. Black out on these outlines is fine, really good in fact, it'll stand out nicely. Black in here, there's not enough, what's the word, diffusion of the light, so there needs to be a lighter colour. So actually I'm going to go over this again, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if this works. It might not, but I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to use a yellow. I'm just going to go over it like this, and can you see that's not killing the line, it's killing the black. It's just taking it right down. So what I'll do is I will wait for that to dry, and I will go in, probably I'll try a red on there. I'll try a red on that next, see if that works. Somebody was asking me about line work the other day and pulling lines. Really, there is no other substitute but practice. But like, for instance, a line like this, you know, you want to tackle it. I mean, you can see that I didn't, straight away I've come back to the beginning there because I could feel it was already veering off. Don't panic about having to restart it. I'm deliberately doing this so you can see it. If I even go to there and like, all right, go back along it, just, the most important thing is that it's got a nice fluid feel to it, a nice fluid dynamic. That will need to be thickened later anyway, so I'm not too fussed. Oh, hang on. Now I'm also looking at that going, I want, this is all snagging stuff, right? I want thumb to be on the outside, don't I? I want that to be in front of that glass. This white is really good for coverage. Can you see that? That white has totally killed that black. That's what you want. You want a white, and that is thick enough to cover black in one go, by the way. I know I've recommended these before. I recommend them again. These Artex acrylic markers, they are really good. You can see the way that lays down. That's killed that black on the first go. Excellent work. What can I be doing? So the problem you've always got when you work with canvas, right? And those of you who do canvases will already know this, is you've got drying times, because that is thick with paint now, and it's thick paint and it will take a little while to dry. I don't know how long. Now, some of you I know will use hair dryers and stuff like that. It takes me right out of it, to be honest. I want to be in a flow. I'm in a flow state when I'm doing art. I want to be doing the thing I'm doing. I don't want to have to pick up a hair dryer and do all that. I just don't want to be doing it. It's good advice, by the way. It is good advice if you can do it. Use a hairdryer for sure, but I can't really. It just takes me out of it. So I'm now looking for other stuff I can do instead. I'm going to do the shading on his fingers. Oh, that's looking a bit dark. That is coming across a bit dark. If something comes out and you think that doesn't look quite right, it's probably because you haven't shaken it enough and the mix is not good enough. Remember that thing from I was talking about? There you go. That's much better. Can you see that? That is a much better mix. It's a lighter grey. That takes it a full shade or two down. It's about the mix. You want a really nice mix in the paint. I'm not too worried about form and stuff like that at the moment. That can all be done later, can all be challenged later. Right now it's about getting the paint down in roughly the right places. I can kill this bit of orange, can't I? There you go. The beauty of the paint pen, right? Over it goes, no bother. Probably won't need another coat. Let's get some more of this sort of dark pinky purple. Shouldn't really be doing anything that resembles detail at the moment in this lot. This should just be about getting a base fill on, because if it looks a bit ragged, it don't matter, because an outline is going to go down over that. Yeah, like in graph on the wall, your outline is where you make everything right, where it all comes together. I wasn't going to put that in because I'll have to go. You can see all this. This is not going to stay white. I don't know what colour it's going to be yet, but it ain't going to stay white. It might be any colour at this point. But I'm trying not to do anything peripheral around the edges too much, because it will get blitzed when I use a fat marker to go around the edge. See, I'm trying to avoid just doing time lapse all the time, because people say to me, we love the time lapses, but we can't see what you're doing. We can't see the process, which I appreciate. So I thought, yeah, it'd be better if you can see quite a lot of this process. You know, I know you can fast forward to the bits you want, or you can watch it all the way through, whichever is your preference. But some of the process you've got to be able to see. I do get it. Is that dry there? Now maybe. Yeah. I think this is working quite well. I think. I might look at it afterwards and think it's awful, but for now, it seems to be working pretty well. So when these details go in, I just start to feel a bit better about everything. a bit better about myself, you know, going, yeah, okay, this does work. All is not lost. Because in the fill state, I hate the fill state. I really don't like it. It's just, you know, because it looks like a mess to me. And I don't like a mess. So I'm even thinking maybe I should do this red and all. Will that red cover that black, I'm wondering? Not very well is the answer. You can probably see that. That is not covering all that well. See, whenever I can, I'm trying to avoid two coats. Just out of sheer laziness, really. But that looks as if it's going to be a two-coat job. It's a little bit ragged, but that's all right. This is the time to do ragged stuff if you're going to do it. Okay, then we're into black, so that's fine. Yeah. Touch-ups, retouch-ups, other touch-ups, etc. The smaller you work in canvas, the more tricky it's going to be. This is not the smallest I work in canvas. I have worked smaller. I won't work smaller than this nowadays, unless somebody specifically asks for it, unless it's a commission piece or something. But generally people don't want small canvases, and I tell you for why. Because small canvases take ages, same as any canvas, right? Small canvases take ages, and so you have to price accordingly. So you end up having to pay quite a lot of money for a small canvas. So your customer pays for a small canvas, and in the meantime they're thinking, well, why don't I just pay for a big canvas instead? You know, spend a bit more money, a little bit more dough, get more canvas for my money. I'll do that instead, which makes a lot more sense, right? Just canvas work, you know, it takes a lot more time because of the drying time. So also what I'm trying to do, because I want you to see this, is I'm not moving the canvas around, which isn't very helpful for me. Somebody said to me, oh wow, I don't know how you do it without moving it. It's really difficult. It's really, really difficult. It needs to stay in the same spot so you can see what's going on, what I'm doing. But it doesn't make it very easy for me, unfortunately. Drop some shade in there. you go. There you go. Oh, that blue is very ragged. Hang on. Got to get this. Got to get some paint moving through there. Oh, I don't think there's much paint in there. There we go. What's that? I mean, this is it's sort of detail stuff, but it's also base fill. It's stuff I can get in now very easily. So I'm just going for it. By the way, I always end up doing canvas like this. I always sort of say that I won't. I always say I'm going to be really methodical this time and work left to right and top to bottom, which is the way you're supposed to do canvas. But I don't know about you, my artistic process does not work like that. I'm seeing stuff in different places all the time. Different stuff, different things, different priorities, you know, all that. That's a creative process, right? That's fun and creative and all that. And yeah, I don't want to get into having to do things in a particular way. And, you know, kills it, doesn't it? Kills it stone dead. Now, I'm going to lay a bit of a background outline on this because I don't think I need to go back over any of this. I don't think, anyway. This is when the outline really helps you out. That is if it's got a good flow on it, and this one does not right now. If you want to work quick with a canvas, which is really difficult, you will find that your nibs get all gummed up with paint. That is a very normal part of that process. Because for paint to completely dry, I think it takes about 48 hours or something. It's quite a long time. Oh, that's a difficult line to pull. I'll tell you why that's a difficult line to pull, because I've got nothing to rest on, and it's right on it. It's on the edge of the canvas like that, you see, so I've got nothing to rest on. There's a horrible line. Yeah, that'll do for now. Okay, this is drying nicely. So see, some of them lines I'm looking thinking they're a bit fat, some of them lines, a bit fat for what I like there. I'm not sure if I'm very happy with them. But the bottom line is, at this point, I can't tell. I can't really tell because all the lines are not in yet. So I don't have full forms yet. And it is a mistake to start sort of trying to, this is why you don't do detail until you've got everything sort of nailed down, you know where everything is. Because I've made that mistake many times before, and we'll probably make it again, you know, which is you start working on the detail of something, then you realise that something else is in completely the wrong place. Artists do it all the time, by the way. Whenever you've seen a portrait of something, but photorealism really suffers from it because you just can't get away with it in photorealism. If, you know, if the eye is slightly too low or something, everybody will know. Everybody will know. You don't need to be an art expert to see it. You will see it and you'll go, oh dear, that looks a bit cronky. Looks a bit all over the place. You can't disguise it. Cannot be disguised, and it's gutting because, you know, that's hours worth of work that just makes you look bad, really. I don't do photorealism anyway, because reason being, like I mentioned before, I can't copy stuff. It is how I started as an artist back in, I would say I started properly in about 85. Not graph, but art. Doing, copying out comics and stuff like that, you know. That's what I started by doing. But graph was about 87. And very quickly, I still copied stuff, but I'd sort of recognised by that point that I was not very good at it. I wasn't very good at copying, so I had to find a different way. So very quickly I started working out my own head. Much preferred it. By the way, another disadvantage of working on raw canvas is these lines are very difficult to keep straight, as you may have noticed, because it's a bumpy texture. So it makes your lines look a bit cronky. I'm just going to kill the width of some of these lines because they're just too fat for me. This can give a quite nice graphy feel to it, you know, with if you use, I mean, some writers don't believe in them, but I do, cutbacks. I'm a big believer in the cutback. I think you can really use them to great effect. Right, this needs to be, oh dear me. This is not easy. This red down here. There you go, that will dry. It's sort of orangey at the moment, but it will dry. Again, drying times. Okay, switching back to real time again, because I'm going to show you, some of you already know this technique, but this is a very useful technique to know, which is called the wet on wet technique. So you lay your wet paint down like that in your darker colour. Then you take your lighter colour, much lighter colour, the yellow, while it's still wet, you start to work that colour into and away from the darker colour. And as you can see, it fades and fades and fades, gives you a really lovely fade through until it blends with the lighter colour. That is the wet on wet technique. Really, really useful to know. I'm going back into time lapse now. Okay, so it's really shaping up now, right? Did a lot of work there, as you can see. I'm always much happier when I get the outline on and I can see that it works as a form. You know, there are bits of it that I'm not crazy about because I'd like more, like the, you see you can see there's a piece in the background, right? And it's covered. I would like to be able to cast a shadow onto that, but I don't have a decent enough dark tone to make the shadow make sense, unfortunately. You know, oh well, never mind, I have to live with that. I'm just looking what needs to come next, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to texture it and I'm going to add a bit of shade and that sort of stuff with wax pencil. I need to do some outlines on these bubbles. I need to put a background colour on there. And as you can see, there's no bits on it yet. There's no bits. Some of the shades, some of the the values are not toned down or toned up. There's no highlights. So all that needs to be done. I'm just going to try and work out what's going to take the most amount of time, because I still want to show you some stuff in real time. So what I'm going to do some of the donkey work now, which is quite tedious, like putting the outlines on this sort of stuff, and then I'll get into something which is a bit more interesting to look at. Okay, so there are bits left to do in the paint, but they can be filled in later. You know, there's bits like the edge work. The edge work, do that right at the end. But I want to get into some texture work. That's what I really want to do, to show you a bit of texturing. So if you work in mixed media, working with wax pencils, then you can start laying down little bits of texture. This is just how I do it. It's, you know, it's very simple. Just lay down a tiny bit. This is where raw canvas really comes into its own, because it just lays down a really nice texture. You can see that, it's just lovely. Now, you do have to be careful, because if you overdo it, you're going to have to paint it again. So better to underdo it than overdo it. But I think you can already see that it just creates a really nice effect. It's a bit like if you use transparent black on your pieces, if you paint, if you're a graffiti writer who paints pieces, I know not everybody does, so I'm just trying to be diplomatic. If you use transparent black, if you lay down too much, it looks horrible. So you want to do it bit by bit, very carefully, and keep on evaluating the whole time. That's what you're doing with this as well. You'll notice I'm smudging with a finger. Some people smudge with what do you call it? In the UK we call them cotton buds. In the US you call them Q-tips. I find the old fingertip is pretty good. Ooh, I'm in danger of over-rigging this one. So you see, it just adds a texture, which is kind of delicious. That's a bit too much, no? There we go. There we go. Nice. Yeah, nice. Good. I want to do a bit on these hands. You're going to make a bit of a mess with wax pencil, by the way. You're going to, well, I'm going to rephrase that. I'm going to make a bit of a mess with wax pencil, but I don't mind, because I'll happily go in and repaint bits afterwards if I need to, just because I really like the effect that a wax pencil will give. It's worth it to me. Totally worth it. You may notice I've got a tiny bit of pink underpaint still visible. I don't mind that either. If you ever go to galleries, look at fine art, you'll notice that a lot of classical painters leave their underpainting, or just professional artists generally, you leave a bit of your underpaint to be seen, you know. That is part of the convention. Don't worry about covering it all. There we go, nice. Because I'm not using music, I should really keep talking. I don't obviously talk to myself much when I'm doing art, so I'm just trying to sort of keep you in the loop about the process of what I'm doing and forgetting to do that. So what I'm looking for little bits where I can put darker bits in, bits where the light wouldn't hit as well, like you're just in a crevice there between his thumb and his forefinger. Less light will get in there, so that's why I'm just hitting that a tiny bit with that. There we go. Again, I don't want to overdo it, I just want to do a little bit. There we go. Yes, yes. See, you see that sort of stuff, you look at that and you think, does that need a bit of, do I need to repaint that? And honestly, I don't think I do really. It doesn't want to be perfect. My Woomer pencils. A nice dark red. That looks like a nice dark red. And I'm going to see if this is enough to layer in to this. Is that going to work? Notice that I worked direct onto the canvas there. Really shouldn't do that, just in case it doesn't work. By the way, because I'm working a different colour now, notice I've smudged on that finger. I have alcohol on my desk, ready to clean that off, because if I was to smudge that now, the red, it would make a mess because of the black I already had on it. So yeah, make sure that you wash the residue off. There, that's nice. See, it's fairly subtle. You can see how subtle it is, but it adds something. Good. Okay, next up I need, what do I need next? Actually, let's do the dark red on this red. Does that lay down well there? Yes, it does. So again, what I'm doing, I'm finding areas that are not getting as much light as other areas, so I can just make them a little bit darker. This is all a bit heavy. So all it's doing is it's toning down. It's not supposed to be like a major new colour value, it's just toning down what's already there. Here we go. Just add in, essentially these are sort of, you know, what we call lowlights and stuff. Bit of texture, bit of shade, give it a smudge, make it a bit nondescript. That's all I want to do on that. I don't know if this is going to be dark enough actually as a tone. Is that going to be dark enough? No, that's not dark enough. It needs to go darker. No, that's all right, I think. Go. just gives something, you see, just changes that value and the texture. Gonna do the same on this one. There in the middle. Scrape away the excess, there we go. There we have it. Because I've done that, I should probably just do this a little bit. There we go, just a tiny bit, don't want too much on there. There we go, okay. So, the best thing you can do is leave your colours out. The reason my desk, I mean you can't completely see it, but I've got all the colours out. And the reason I've got all the colours out and I leave them out is so that I know what I've used. Because if I start replacing stuff, I'm going, you know, because I've got a lot of colours, loads in every media, and so I start to hunt around going, was it this blue or was it this blue? I can't remember, and that wastes my time. All this stuff is time consuming, right? It takes a long time, so you don't want to be wasting time unnecessarily. Okay, that needs redone, doesn't it? Good, okay. It's all outside edge stuff, backgroundy stuff that needs to be given another coat or something. Did you notice, by the way, I forgot to switch the camera on. I gave it a really nice baby pink, this sort of baby pink colour. Really lovely colour, sort of candy. It's not candy pink, is it? Yeah, baby pink. No, pale pink, which I thought was nice. So now what we're looking at is details, really, tiny little details. So I'm just going to put little tiny highlights on him, this sort of stuff. Now before I can go and do any details on the background, it will need another coat. I'm not worried about it being perfect. But I don't want any real nasty kind of dirty great marks on it or anything. This stuff takes a bit of a while to dry because it's very, very opaque. You might have noticed, by the way, there's little tiny bits like that white bit there, and also I never worry about that because I can always cover that with a doodad or something, you know. I'll go around it later, cover it with something else. Never sweat that stuff. That's the easiest stuff in the world to cover. By the way, can you see how quick I'm blitzing this canvas? This is what you want these big fat markers for, as well as dropping a nice bladed tag. They're very effective for covering large areas quickly. Okay, so here he is. Now I'm going to cheat a highlight onto this black bit, because really the light's coming from down here, it should be hitting this side, but it's less effective. So I'm going to drop it on here. sometimes it doesn't take much. In fact, do you know what? I might be able to get away with doing 2 lots. Yeah, I think that's all right. Okay, so now we're moving into like finishing touches now, really. Finishing touches, what am I looking at? I'm looking at things like the edge of that. I'm looking at some, what else am I looking at? This sort of stuff. Snagging, we call this, when you're dealing with the clean-up on the final bits. Don't at this stage go, I'm nearly done, and end up dragging your hand through a bubble or something, you know, and wrecking a really delicate bit of work. We've all done it. It's very painful, you know, because this is the stuff. This is the stuff around here. It's the most detailed stuff. This is stuff I've got to be careful of, because this is all wet on wet and mix and cuts and all that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that takes the longest. I don't know if you didn't see me put the little reflection on in real time, but what I did there, I laid down the orange, then I went over it in yellow. It doesn't take forever, but it is painstaking, and it does take a bit of your time and your focus, so you've got to be careful. You don't want to then drag a load of blue through it, you know, and have to redo the whole thing from scratch. That kind of thing will drive you absolutely mad. Okay. So I'm thinking, so this is the sort of stuff, see up here? Obviously, it's all cutting stuff, this, you know. I need to cut that back in. Edges, like I was talking about before, because I've used blue and I've gone in again, so I need to go in again and re-cut that. That wants a tiny highlight just there. Snagging, tiny details. Now, if I want, I can start to do some whips or something. The thing is about whips is that you've got to, if you're going to go over something you've already done, you've got to decide whether it's going to throw a shadow or not. Like if it goes over the blue, it's going to need a darker shadow, right? So you've got to decide whether that's going to be worth it. Leave that there. And I'll do, but I'm going to do, to illustrate what I mean, I'm going to do a more complex one up here. What I'll do, bring it out there. So you're working hard at this stage not to mess up anything you've already done. The good news is it's paint. So paint goes over paint. If you really make a mess, you will be able to redo it. The bad news is redoing it is a headache. Okay, so now really that will throw a bit of a shadow, and the shadow on the blue is this dark one here. Okay, this is a really good example actually. See, because you see this detail here, this corner of this arrow is throwing a shadow already. So I'm looking at this whip going, if I put the shadow in where it is, it's going to kill that. Because I've got no room to put it in up there, do you see? So it's not a true shadow. So I've got a choice. I can leave it off altogether, or I can cheat it. So I'm going to cheat it. I'm going to bring it in there instead. Wait for that to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to take a fat black and I'm going to just go around here again, giving that a nice uniform feel. There we go. Oh, I'm going to do the same down here on his hand. There we go. Whew. And all that remains now is that dry. Is that dry? I've got to make sure everything's drying out because I do not at this stage want to be fouling in any way. I'm going to do final touches of this kind of thing. Just little flourishes that add just a tiny bit of something, you know. Details that can help. Here we go. Now already I'm looking at this thinking, don't over egg it, please don't over egg it. Don't do too much. You don't want it to get too overloaded. Thinking that is probably done. Doesn't need any more than that. If I was going to be very conscientious, I would probably just drop a little highlight in. Where's the... Just drop some highlights around there. Doesn't need much. And that, my friends, I am calling finished. That's done. So that's the canvas, start to finish for you there. What I would do, you see the edges are white. So what I'll do is I'll go in with my Artex little sort of baby pink here. And I just blitz it. I blitz the edges as well. That's what I do. But that is just, you know, that's the matter of a couple of minutes really. A couple of minutes work and that's done. So rather than bore you with all that, I'll leave that there. And hope you found that useful. Join me on the next one.